Hello students. In this video lecture, we discuss about the demand analysis. First, we'll see what is demand. Demand is nothing but something we require. Either it may be goods and services, or it may be a building, or it may be whatever it may be, the commodities. While we are demanding, just we wish to get the commodity, it's just a desire. When it will become the demand, while we are having the desire with the purchasing power, that is the monetary power. So the money with desire or purchasing power with desire, that will be transformed into demand. That is what we in economics, we will call it as demand. So the demand is an economic term that refers to the amount of the products or services that consumers wish to purchase at any given price level. The mere desire of the consumer for a product is not a demand. Yes, demand includes the purchasing power of the consumer to acquire a commodity for the given product at a given period. It is called as demand. There are certain factors which influence on the demand. Suppose if I am demanding a product, the price of the particular product which determines whether I am requiring more commodities or lesser commodities. If we take an example, when the price of bread is so lesser as comparatively because it's essential commodity, so that we can able to buy more goods. In the same way, the particular commodity price, for example, gold, silver, and precious metal, the price of the commodity is so high, then we will buy only a very limited quantity, like 1 gram, 2 gram, like that. So the price of the commodity, which determines the how much demand or how much we are demanding the quantity, is determined. One more example also we can add. Suppose if a commodity price is 100 rupees, when the prices goes up from 100 to 130, we'll decide to buy a lesser quantity. The same commodity, its prices comes down from 100 to 70 rupees, then we'll decide to go for a higher quantity of commodity. So that the price fluctuations or the price increase or decrease will determine whether the quantity demanded is declining or increasing. So obviously, the price and quantity demanded will have an inverse relationship between the two. They have an inverse relationship. While price goes up, quantity demanded comes down. While price comes down, the quantity demand will go up. So the price of the commodity is a prime factor which influence on the determination of quantity demanded. And secondly, the income of the consumer. Now, the another variable or another determinator is called income. So income also will directly influence on the quantity demanded. When the income of the consumer increases, the quantity demanded of the commodities will also increase. On the other hand, when income comes down, the quantity demand also will come down. And the third factor is taste and preference of the consumer. So the respective taste and preferences of the consumer will also influence on the quantity demanded. And the fourth one is price of the related goods. The price of the related goods, we can also call it as substitutional commodity prices. When the price of one commodity will not change, but the price of the another commodity will change because of that. This commodity, if you take an example of, for the better clarity, I will tell you two commodities, A and B. Both commodities A and B are substitutable commodities. Substitutable commodity, we all know. Apple and orange is a classic example, because two are giving the almost equivalent satisfaction, but comparatively Apple gives more satisfaction because of the taste is good and it has more nutritional values. But both are substitutable. We can substitute for each one another. When the Apple price remains the same, when orange price comes down, then we will reduce the consumption of apple and buy more of oranges. On the other hand, keeping the orange price constant, and if the apple prices comes down, then we will reduce the purchase of orange and we will try to navigate our income or navigate our consumption expenditure for apple. So the price of commodity A is unchanged, but the demand for the commodity B has changed. That is called as the fourth determinator, price of the related goods. And related goods can be of two types, namely substitutable commodity or complementary commodity. So substitutable commodity, what we have said is apple and orange. And we have complementary goods also. Complementary goods in the sense, if you take an example of automobile, like bike and petrol. If the price of bike decline, many people will intended to buy more bikes so that the demand for the fuel, petrol also will increase. Suppose if the price of the bike remains constant, but the petrol prices keep on increasing, so the consumption of petrol will decline, and subsequently the purchase of bikes will also decline. So both have the complementary effect each other. So in such cases, the price of one commodity will affect the demand of another commodity, both in substitutable commodities and complementary commodities. Hope you are understand this concept. In case if you have any doubt, you can post the question on the LMS so that we can have a discussion on this. Then fourth factor is the expectations of the consumers. So I'm sorry, fifth one. And the sixth one is the effect of advertisements. When advertisement increases by the firms, obviously it leads to into promotion of sales. So that will create more demand. And seventh one is distribution of income in the society. And eighth one is growth of population. And ninth one is government policy. And 10th one is climatic conditions. How distribution of income in the society will affect the demand. Yes, suppose if the distribution of income is not equal, suppose some richer people only getting higher income and poorer are getting poorer. So poor people could not able to buy the goods and services. And richer people, even though if they're getting more money, they can buy the commodities at their required level only. So that the production has produced for the whole population. And when we see comparatively with respect to the supply, the demand will be lesser. To create more demand for the consumption of the poor people, the government has to take necessary steps to distribute the income to the poor people also, so that the poor also will create demand. And the eighth one is growth of population. If some countries having higher population, so that they will get more demand, lesser populated countries will have a lesser demand. And if you take an example of India and China, when they were having the huge population, the market potential for the demand for the goods and services is so high. And whereas in the small countries like Japan, there is a lesser demand for the goods and services. And the ninth one, the government policy. Government policy is nothing but the taxes. whether the government is providing lesser tax, offering lesser taxes or more taxes. If they put more taxes on the goods and services, the price of the commodity will go up. That will hit the demand for the goods and services. And on the contrary, if the taxes are less, the price of the goods and services will relatively cheaper. That will create new demand. And the 10th one is climatic conditions. So the demand for certain commodities will be depends upon the climatic conditions. If we take an example of summer season, we have more sale or demanding of ice creams and cool drinks. Whereas in the winter and rainy season, we have more demand for tea and coffee. So the climatic conditions also will influence on the demand for the quantity demand of the goods and services. So that is the factors which determines on the quantity demanded. The next we are going to see demand function, how the demand is function in the market or with the individual. Before we are entering into the analysis of the demand function, first we'll once again will have a strong idea about the demand. Demand is nothing but the desire with potential to buy the commodity. There are certain factors which influence on the demand, and that when we derive, that is called as the demand function. How it will be derived? When demand for the commodity X is the function of, here we can see in the PPT, demand is the function of, demand for the commodity X is the function of price of that particular X commodity, the price of the alternative related commodity, income of the consumer, T, taste and preference, and F, the expectation of future changes in the prices. That is, we call it as individual demand function. And next one, we are going to see the market demand function. So the functional relationship between the market and the factors affecting the market demand is dx is the demand for the particular commodity X is the function of price of X in the market. Then PR, price of the related goods available in the market, income of the consumers in the market, taste and preferences of the consumer in the market, and future expectations of the price increase or decline in the market for the particular commodity. That is same functionality, we can use it for the market demand function. But only one difference between the individual demand function and market demand function. Individual demand function is only about an individual, but market demand function, all the factors remains the same, but all the factors for all the consumers who was involved in the purchase of goods and services or who was involved in that particular market, combined all consumers is a market demand function. If you are talking about only one individual consumer, that is individual demand function. Now we are going to see what is law of demand, the basic fundamental function, that is law of demand. According to Marshall, he's one of the famous classical economists, Marshall. According to Marshall, other things remaining equal, when the price falls, demand increase, and when the price increases, demand falls. So that is called as the law of demand. We can also diagrammatically prove that how the law of demand will exist. We have the diagram. In this diagram, we have x-axis and y-axis. On the x-axis, we have the quantity demand of the commodities. On the y-axis, we have price of the commodities. And we have different price levels in a different situations. Rupees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 example. and quantity available is up to 600 is available. Yes. Now, if the price is at rupees 3, the quantity demanded will be 300. When the price goes to 4 rupees, obviously the quantity demand will come down from 300 quantity to 200. Further, the price is increased from 4 rupees to 5 rupees. Obviously, our quantity demanded further declined from 200 to 100 rupees. So when the price goes up, the quantity demand will come down. Simultaneously, when the price comes down from 5 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1, obviously the quantity demanded will increase from 100 to 200, 200 to 300, 300 to 400, 400 to 600. When we are having these different equilibrium points, if we connect this different equilibrium points, which is happening in the different situation, price and quantity demand situations, if we connect, then we will get the demand curve. At price 3, the quantity demand is 300, mark R. At price 4, the quantity demanded is 200 on the graph, mark this point. And at price 5, the quantity demand is 100, kindly mark this P. When we connect these 3 or these 4 or this 5 different equilibrium, then we'll get the demand curve. This demand curve is a downward sloping demand curve. So with this, we'll stop here. We'll continue in the next video. Thank you, students.